Hello, everyone. I would like to talk about some practical implementation and design. This is what we do in Positive Technologies ISIM in the industrial automation. I'm Dmitry Avramenko, responsible for cybersecurity for industrial applications. Of course, I welcome your questions that you may have during the course of my presentation. Send them all to the chat. They will be sent to me. And in the end of my presentation, I'll definitely look through them, try to answer these questions. But if you don't have time for that, you can, of course, contact me by mail, by email. I will have your questions there, that's for sure. So the team that we currently implement in the industrial security solutions have been familiar with ISIM since 2017, to be precise. Ever since we started having a dedicated group which implements specific CAM solutions, and we've come up with more than 10 projects where we have used Positive Technologies IC. But the question is, if this product has been living for quite a long time, the problems with its implementation may not even exist, which is not true in actual fact. Our experience proves that, especially today, when industrial automation systems, protections systems are drawing more and more attention, they are on peak of their development. Still, most of the problems that we have been facing, most of the problems that we are familiar with, arise at customers' sites with very envious regularity. Most of the time they would design it, but cannot really implement it due to numerous problems that come up in the course of the real implementation. Why it happens and what we can do about it will be explained in this presentation with only one thing. I think we won't be considering the reasoning, the feasibility study, the approval of the product by the vendor. These items are considered individually, separately, and maybe there are no questions about ISIM implementation when we are in a feasibility study stage, when we ask a question whether this is going to be approved by the vendor or not. So the main question I would like to answer today is what we have to take into account in these CAM projects where you have decided to use ISIM to get the maximum output of it, to get maximum use from using PTISIM. Imagine that this project has been approved and the budget has been allocated for that, and we have developed the architecture for cybersecurity protection. We have decided to utilize PTISIM for that as a solution, and we understand which functions of PTISIM we would like to utilize in this particular scenario. The main thing is the preliminary study. The preliminary study will define the future fate of what our solution look like, what we are likely to face and what we are not likely to face in the following stages. And I would say that in the preliminary study will require the specific schematics of solutions where we'd probably apply the ISIM solution. We'd like to have a copy of networking traffic. We need to know all of the IP addresses. We need to know all of the cables, cable traces, because if we would like to implement ISIM at a specific site, we would have to rebuild the infrastructure, redesign the infrastructure, would most likely have to replace some equipment on it. some devices will be replaced. If we don't have this information on our hands beforehand, and if we design something, when we do it, it may either malfunction, or we will have to buy some solutions urgently. If we wanted to do the ProView implementation, we definitely need to understand the technological traffic readings. We just need to find the customers who'd help us with the parameters that we would like to track down, those responsible for that. We'll have to find such parties to help us understand what this process is actually arranged, and to do it as early as possible. So we'd have to have the preliminary understanding of the infrastructure of the project. We need to know how to connect, how to power the server, which will be used as a sensor, and where we're going to be sending the traffic, which network will be used for that, etc. If we don't have that, there is a chance that we can make a mistake or a few mistakes during this design phase, and it may be critical. The next phase is the development of the architecture of PTI ISIM. At the entry level, we have the architecture of the cybersecurity. We understand where the sites will be located to maintain and provide a cybersecurity locally. Knowing all that, knowing the specifics of these locations, after the preliminary study, we can develop some specific PTI ISIM architecture. And this is a flexible solution containing quite a lot of components. So delving into a variety of PTI ISIM solutions is not the purpose of this presentation. I think you've already heard it elsewhere, especially during the course of this particular conference. I would just like to point out that there may be plenty of versions of PTI ISIM. Depending on your layout, you can very flexibly choose the appropriate PTI ISIM architecture, taking into account all of your specific requirements. It's a very important moment to address, because if you skip this, you may be facing quite a lot of resistance, especially locally, when the people locally will not be eager to do the work they will be forced to do. Very often we can see solutions with the so-called typical security and network monitoring solutions. Such a typical solution or standard solution may be PTI ISIM. If we have internet secure, if we have traffic there, we just need to send traffic elsewhere. We need to do it with the use of the PTI ISIM, whatever. It's a typical solution, but it does not take into account a lot of factors. And in the course of implementation, people would say that they have no room for it. There is no span, or there may be issues of getting span with only just a limited number of ports. We don't see the network, we don't see the entire traffic, and there is no point in implementing such a solution, so it becomes really questionable. And sometimes it happens that there are a few sensors available, but only one is going to be used. Where are we going to take networking equipment? How are we going to put the cables? Nobody was actually thinking about it. Nobody considered that. So seems like that the typical solution is just saying in words, it will be such a solution, but nobody has ever thought about how to do it in practice. To overcome this issue, if we really would like to leave the typical PTI ISIM solution, is just to make these types more detailed. We just need to identify the sensors. We need to identify which components of PTI ISIM will have to include additional parameters. Will there be room needed for that? Will there be power needed for that or not? Will we need to replace networking equipment for that or not? It will help us get more flexible to the types. And of course, it may complicate this work at the initial stage, but it will simplify everything in the implementation stage. If we understand that there is a standard solution that we'll have to implement in a specific architecture, we just do the preliminary study. We analyze the equipment requirements, cabling requirements. For example, if we need to replace some equipment for some other ones, for some other equipment, then we make a decision and implement PT-ISIM. If we do not take all those things into account, you will have to do it at a later stage, but not every customer is actually happy to put up with this solution, that this solution requires rebuilding half of your network. Maybe you'll have to do it at the cost of the customer, whatever. So this is what applies to the so-called typical solutions. And I think the most important thing, especially when you are in the use or not use PT-ISIM in the project and you are inclined to using it, you need to remove the identified incidents. You need to eradicate and eliminate the detected incidents and the warnings in the working mode. Knowing from my experience, I know that there hasn't been a case when this product was implemented smoothly with no incidents and no warnings and no problems. There haven't been such things. There are not smooth solutions. This is a product which is a working one. It reveals incidents, it reveals vulnerabilities, and it sends you warnings. In order not to make this work really disturbing at the implementation phase, you need to think about it and really implement it properly, thus excluding all of those trouble signals which will disturb you from fully fledged use of the product functionality. I guess most of your computers and servers will be trying to download updates via the SMB protocols and using telnets and various other obsolete protocols that Positive Technologies ISIM will consider to be suspicious and dangerous and signal and mark those as incidents. So they will be added as signatures, or you will have to do it in a proper way to minimize such events to the acceptable number. So these iterations are a regular thing. So what would we have to do after connecting the sensor? After it's done, we get approximately 13,000 notifications and warning signs. That's in the first iteration, but by iteration N, which was a big number, trust me, that number of notifications was greatly reduced, and that made the system something to work with properly. Because when you have more than 10,000 notifications, believe me, it's not a comfortable thing to use. Of course, that's been a very, very short presentation of mine. And I know that taking into account all of the subtleties is kind of hard. I think it was just a piece of bite for you to delve into this topic more thoroughly, to drill it down. And for more information, of course, please contact us. We'll be happy to share this information with you. And I would like to make a few conclusions in my summary. First of all, we'll have to have a reasonable and well thought of approach to design, because it's a serious solution. And if you design it in a proper way, if you implement it properly, it will help you really understand your network and make this work process properly, because it's not just out of the box simple installation, not at all. You'll have to put some effort into it. You'll have to run around and try to tune it up, I would say, and contact some vendors and ask them questions, why it's working like this and who's to blame and how to fix it, whatever. But the product will actually help us reset your approach to security. Thank you very much. I hope you have questions, and I'm open for them in this chat or afterwards if you like. Thank you very much for joining me here. If you have questions with time, please contact me by using my email or send your questions to the chat and the moderator will pass them to me. Thank you very much. Goodbye.